When you look at the dense concrete canyons of modern Kuala Lumpur today, the city appears entirely impervious to the natural world. But looking at this 3D topographic model of the Klang Valley reveals a distinct geographic trap. The entire metropolitan center sits at the bottom of a bowl-like natural basin, making it highly susceptible to water pooling. In early 1971, that exact vulnerability was triggered. As this archival photograph shows, a complete systemic collapse turned the streets of the nation's capital into a muddy lake. The immediate toll was severe: 61 fatalities nationwide, over 180,000 people evacuated, and tens of millions of ringgit in damages, equivalent to well over R1 billion today. The situation escalated so rapidly that Prime Minister Tun Abdul Razak had to declare a national state of emergency. To understand the defensive engineering Malaysia relies on today, we have to dissect the exact mechanics of the day those systems completely failed. This radar schematic tracks the meteorological trigger that began in late December 1970. A classic monsoon surge traveled across the South China Sea and collided directly with a massive tropical depression. That collision sat over West Malaysia, dumping over 400 millimeters of rain directly into the Klang Valley in under a week. Every natural retention zone and catchment area in the valley rapidly filled to absolute capacity, with nowhere else for the water to drain. This vector schematic pinpoints the critical bottleneck, where the Sungai Klang and Sungai Gombak rivers meet near Masjid Jamek. Unable to channel the runoff, both rivers breached simultaneously. Millions of cubic meters of water displaced laterally, pouring straight into urban blocks. The lowest-lying sectors of the city quickly vanished. Historic landmarks, including Dataran Merdeka and the Sultan Abdul Samad building, sat entirely submerged beneath meters of brown floodwater. The extreme weather merely activated a geographical inevitability. The basin's topography and the bottlenecking rivers made the inundation a mathematical certainty. The environmental trigger quickly exposed massive gaps in the city's early emergency response systems. As the water rose, it flooded critical telephone exchange stations. The ensuing hardware failure caused a total blackout across the city's communication grid. Without functioning phone lines, search and rescue units were suddenly operating completely blind. They had no way to locate or coordinate extractions for isolated, high-risk neighborhoods like Kampung Baru. Even when they reached flooded zones, local forces were heavily reliant on basic wooden boats, which proved completely useless against the strong, fast-moving currents channeling between buildings. The lack of an early warning system meant dozens of civilians went to sleep on January 4th thinking they were safe, only to wake up trapped inside their homes by rapidly rising waters. As seen in this archival photo, trapped civilians were forced to scale rooftops, requiring the military to execute highly dangerous airlifts using suspended cargo nets. The response effort proved that physical rescue equipment is completely neutralized if the communication and early warning grids fail first. The scale of the collapse forced a massive shift in governance. The Malaysian government officially reclassified flood risk from an environmental issue to a top-tier national security threat. They established a strict central command structure to manage future crises, a framework that eventually evolved into the National Security Council Directive No. 20. This aerial view illustrates one of the major physical defenses built after the flood, the Batu Dam. Placed far upstream, it captures and throttles the massive Gombak catchment overflow long before it can reach the city center. Downstream, the city aggressively widened the Klang and Gombak riverbeds, lining them with the deep concrete embankments seen here to rapidly accelerate water discharge velocity out of the urban grid. Realizing that traditional surface drains were entirely obsolete against extreme monsoon surges, ultimately laid the groundwork for the massive Smart Tunnel project decades later. Nearly every major piece of hydrological infrastructure operating in Kuala Lumpur Drain is a direct physical patch designed to fix the specific vulnerabilities exposed in 1971. Today, climate projections warn that highly localized, intense urban microbursts are increasing in frequency, carrying enough volume to overwhelm even these upgraded defenses. If you are caught in a rapid rise flash flood, your immediate priority is vertical evacuation. Identify and move to a structurally sound, multi-story building. Your vital identification, your property titles, and medical records should be sealed inside floatable, waterproof document pouches well before the storm hits. This diagram breaks down the components of a proper 72-hour survival bag. Because cellular networks will inevitably saturate or fail, a manual emergency radio, power banks, and water purification tools are mandatory. The national infrastructure has improved drastically since 1971, but when a storm pushes those systems to the breaking point, your personal preparedness is your ultimate insurance policy.